Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today I'm going to be doing a crochet and chat while we talk about the worst books that I read in 2024. I read 103 books in 2024 and I went through and looked up what my worst rated ones were, but also which ones stuck out in my mind as the worst. So I have 6 books to tell you about today. So grab a project. I'm not sure how long we'll be here. I'm working on a burp rag, just cotton using the moss stitch for a friend who's expecting her first child. Part of her baby shower present is going to be just a few assorted burp cloths using cotton from my stash. So I'm just going to be crocheting on that and telling you about these books. So these are going to be in the order in which I read them throughout the year. So first book is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I guess the biggest thing is that I didn't get it. I read the foreword. I can't remember who that was by, but I got the 10th anniversary or 25th anniversary edition of this book. And I was like, ooh, the concept is great. So essentially this book is about this family that has 5 girls in it. They all unalive themselves in the same year. But it's told from the perspective of the boys across the street. And, you'd think that it would be really cool, but these boys don't know the girls at all. They're not friends, and they don't even really have crushes on them. They just are yeah, these are our neighbors and they're girls. And we think a couple of them are kind of cute. I think the concept is better than the execution when it comes to this book. It's not a bad book. It's not that I wouldn't recommend it. It's just I did not enjoy it, and I clearly did not understand what was going on. The second book is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I have such a hard time when people talk about how much they love this book because it feels like they like it and then they exclude all of the bad that's in it. There's a lot of racism in this book against basically anyone who's not white. There's a lot of homophobia, and it's essentially hot girl sad. And The Bell Jar in particular is autobiographical in nature, chronicling Sylvia Plath's one summer where she had a couple weeks in New York. It's a fashion sort of thing. And she blew that off to party and smoke with her friend. And then she didn't get into the end of summer writing intensive. And then she goes into this very deep depressive state. And I can understand that for the time, this was very revolutionary. I'm sure that the story, you can see it reflected in other pieces of literature. I kind of see The Bell Jar and My Year of Rest and Relaxation in kind of the same vein. But if you are looking for something that is hot white girl sad, I would go with My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I just can't in my right mind recommend this book, and it's so hard because people are oh, it's so good, I've never felt so seen. And I'm I also struggle with mental health, and I did not feel seen or represented in the book. Because I feel she's just this privileged girl who's very, rude. And, I like an unlikable female character. I can get down with an unlikable female character. But The Bell Jar just is not it. But next is Parables of the Sour by Octavia E. Butler. This book disappointed me so much. A lot of people said, if you like The Handmaid's Tale, you'll like this more. It's a speculative fiction. It starts in the year 2024 and follows this girl as she's living kind of in a religious encampment isn't the right word, but it's a town. They all follow this one religion. And it's pretty, I think it's kind of Baptist-ish. It's a sect of Christianity. And she is just I don't like it. I don't like it. And in terms of oppressive religious things, I would say that part is the most tame. She's just like, I don't like it. And so what she does is creates her own religion and essentially kind of like creates her own cult that is based on Christianic values. So that was kind of weird. There's also like a lot of unnecessary violence in this book. Like, they talk a lot about violence against women, but it's only in the context of like an other, like anyone that is somewhat of a main character or is close to our main girl, because this is told through journal entries. Anyone who is close to her is like basically has plot armor. Like, nothing bad really ever happens to them. It's just all the bad things happening around them. It just really, really fell flat for me, and it made me sad, because it is a trilogy, but like I don't think anyone could get me to read that second and third book. Like, just something about it, I was just Next is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. I will say this for this book. It goes there. It goes where most books do not dare to go. In this book, all animal meat is tainted. Something happened. We can't eat animal meat anymore. So instead of going to an all-vegetarian vegan society, we decided to start raising humans for human consumption. We like start raising humans as like meat, which I do think that is something that like our society would do. I don't think they would be very like upfront about it personally. I think it would happen a lot behind closed doors. And we're in our main character, our guy, he's a butcher. And so he basically has to detach himself from these people that he has been ordered to harvest, we'll say. And it just is like super heavy-handed. It's very on the nose. There's no real like conclusion, and it's interesting as like a thought piece, but I don't think as a story it serves very well, because like not enough happens in the book. It also is kind of an interesting commentary on like human nature and the way humans treat each other. So I do think it's interesting, but it did just like disappoint me, because like I don't mind a book that makes me think, but like it was like there was a lot of different things that could be said in the book, but it really kind of falls flat on all of them. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So in this book, it's based in a society where there is nothing but pleasure, essentially. So, and that like pleasure physically, mentally, like there are no bad emotions, essentially. Like, and all creativity has been taken away. So there's no monogamy. It's a very like free love sort of society, but it's not called love because it's just those physical pleasures. And two characters that we follow go to the United States on a reservation, like a Native American reservation, which it does use like derogatory language for these Native Americans that it's talking about. And they realize how like different it is. And one of they like bring someone back with them, and it's just like, oh, I want poetry and art, and I want to feel things, and it's like, yeah, okay, cool. I think if you want something similar to this, you should just read The Giver by Lois Lowry. That's a very good book. I did not feel like this. It was so flat, and it had these derogatory terms, and I did not like that, because I really do try to think about what I am consuming, and I don't even think it's fair to be like, well, think about it in the, like, when it was written, that was normal back then, and it's like, that's still dehumanizing to those people. Like, that's not fair. Like, you can sit and say that, but that doesn't mean that like people of color have to agree with you, but that like they don't get that same experience because they have to read a book where the author actively did not like them. More books have been written nowadays to where I don't support like burning books, banning books, anything. I'm just saying if we're going to use books as a teaching tool, there are much better books out there. So that's my rant on Brave New World. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This was the worst romance book of the year. I really don't think too hard when I read romance books. I really don't. I give them the most grace in the world. But this book was the hottest trash that I've ever read. Our main female character, I can't remember her name, but she's 36 years old. Our main male character is like 42. And I like the thought of us having romantic characters that don't have such a big age gap. I like when it's not, I don't mind when a woman's like in her mid-20s and a guy's in his mid-30s. You know, I like that. I'm not the big fan of like a 20-year age gap. It is still an age gap, but it's like an appropriate one. But like this guy is 42. He acts like he's a broody 23-year-old who like got his heart broken one time and oh my god, it was so bad. And then this girl, she is running away from a relationship. And I can understand some of the choices that she makes, but the plot in general and the writing style just weren't for me. I kind of want to read the other two, but they are not high on my priority list because I'm not the biggest fan of like spite reading things. I started reading this when I was at Lollapalooza because we didn't really have a whole lot of service, so we couldn't like scroll on anything, but I was like, oh, I have Kindle Unlimited, so I could read on my phone while we're waiting for the next artist to pop up. So that's what I did, and I read almost all of this book. And this is a thick book too. It's like 600 pages or so, maybe 400, I don't know, but it's like long. It is so long. And the guy is just like, I don't like her, I don't want to like her, da 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 da. And then he just starts paying for stuff, and it's like, what? And then the worst nonfiction book that I read in 2024 was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. If you watched my most recent IRL podcast, I talked a lot about this book. Essentially, it, like, to give you the SparkNotes version, it plays into some very harmful patriarchal gendered stereotypes, and basically women are just supposed to like stroke the ego of their husband, and they just need to understand that that's the way men are, and you just need to work around the way men are. You see a lot of this sort of regurgitated stuff repackaged every couple of years. So if you've heard of like the divine feminine, the divine masculine on TikTok, I'm not sure a more updated version of that, but that's what I was most recently made aware of. That's this book, and it's not rooted in real science. Like, John Gray goes so far as to say if women talk to their husbands about their feelings, they will no longer experience PMS symptoms, which is just like not scientifically accurate at all. Like, while it may make her feel better, that in particular has no bearing on a woman's PMS symptoms. I will be keeping this book for reference because I am reading quite a few like relationship and like love books right now. But this was very disappointing, especially since it is kind of revered as a really like, it's revered kind of as essential literature for relationships and stuff. And I think that getting a divorce would cause less baggage than like trying to implement a lot of the things in this book. So I know that when I was talking about all this stuff, I know that there's a lot of classics on here, or, you know, modern day classics, I guess we can call them, you know, Virgin Suicide, Bell Jar, Parables of the Sower, Tenders of Flesh. Brave New World was written in the 1930s, so that one technically is a classic. It is going to be hitting the 100-year mark soon, which is kind of cool. And I understand that this may pose the question of like, well, Taylor, do you hate classics? No. No, I do not hate classics. I just think that just because it's been around for a long time does not make it good. And I think that is the biggest problem when it comes to classics, because we can read these. I'm glad that I read these books. I'm not sitting here saying I regret reading them. I'm saying they were disappointed, that I was disappointed in it, that I did not think they were good. But I'm glad that I read them because now I know. And, you know, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I wouldn't read any of those, then don't. You don't need to. And I also don't think that you have to read classics in any capacity. I just think that when we talk about the media that we're consuming, and no matter what, you know, a book is a media that you're consuming, you kind of need to think about like what the author is trying to say. And so when I read these books that have racist or homophobic or derogatory terms in them, you know, what is the author trying to say? Is there a point to it, or are they imposing their own viewpoints into their own story? Because books don't exist in a vacuum. You know, authors also have an agenda that they want to push in some way. That's why it is important to understand the difference between like, okay, is the author saying that this is good? Is it bad? Are they, you know, can we tell that this is something that the author thinks? And I know that that's a little bit hard to explain, but once you start thinking about it when you're reading, it's kind of hard to not think about that. And especially when you have loved ones in your life who are part of marginalized communities, I think that there's a certain responsibility that you have as a person to not be suggesting things that would spread hate against the people you love. I hope that made sense. That was really rambly, but it is something I feel really passionate about. And I think that like anti-intellectualism in the book community, I think a lot of people just don't, it's not that people are bad. Like, I don't think anybody is bad. I think that people just don't want to acknowledge things. And once we start doing that, that's when we become really ignorant as a society. And that's sad, because it's important to know what we're taking in. So yeah, okay. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked any of these books, I guess I should have put in a disclaimer. If you like any of these books, I would love to know why and what your thoughts are. I don't think that if you like these books, you're a bad person. Like I said, I think it's just important to know what we're taking in and maybe, you know, why we like the things that we like. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I feel so lucky and excited for this new chapter of the channel of, you know, 1,000 subscribers and counting. I'm so excited, so thankful, so grateful. And I want to keep making videos for you guys that you will like, that you want to watch. Life's just a little bit busy right now. I will see you guys next time. Thanks again so much for watching. Bye.